And we should be live. How you doing, everyone? And welcome to Braw Cast. It is Monday. It is 9 o'clock. Let's get about this. I hope you had a great weekend. I'm going to wait until there's a bunch of people online because literally, normally what I'm meant to do is I'm meant to put up a picture and I'm meant to hold it there for about 30 seconds while everyone gets dialed in. But for some reason, I didn't do that tonight, probably because it's been on since 4 o'clock in the morning. I hope you're amazing. If you are just tuning in, then make sure to share the link. We want to get as many eyes on this. I've got an amazing guest tonight. We got, he is a comedian, he is a writer, he's an actor, the wonderful Michael Redmond. He's going to be joining us. He's got his hand on some Braw Beard oil. We're going to be talking to him about that. We're going to be talking to him about career. And yes, taking your questions. If you have any questions at all for him tonight, it could be about anything in the universe. Knowing the type of guy that Michael is, I think he'll take a shot at answering basically anything. But if you have any questions at all about his career or anything that's going on right now, then please, 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 by all means, boop, hit me with them in the comments. And don't forget, we just like to hear from you. Actually the start of Mental Health Awareness Week. So let us know how you're getting on. Let us know that everything's okay and give us a thumbs up and let us know that everything is cool. Again, let's get this sharing. Let's get as many eyes on this as we can. Right. I think we're going to get things kicked off in just a second. Oh, and I should say, I am going to be explaining all about our brother, am I even saying it right? Brother of the Week. We want to say hi to people that are using the product, people that are faces in the community. We've decided what we're going to start doing is going to do a really fun thing where we're going to get a chance of picking our Brother of the Week. Do you qualify? All you need to do is you need to be a part of the Brawtherhood. You need to buy the products, and that's it, really. You're already in the running. If you'd like to nominate someone, and this is the most important thing, is it a story we don't know? Is it someone that's made a difference to your life, particularly with this Mental Health Awareness Week? Make sure you can put a nomination, either DM the Braw Beard Oils page or drop me even a DM if that helps out, kick things off. All right, shall we get this rocking and rolling? I think we're online. I'm just double checking everything before I get on our guest. It appears to be we are online. It appears to be we got the numbers in. Yep, it looks like we're ready to rock. So I tell you what, we've got about 20 people watching online. We've got a lot more watching through various other things. So we got about, we got a fair amount. So I tell you what, if you think anyone would be interested in this, make sure again to share that link. Let's get as many eyes on this as we can. So Monday, get your questions in. Right, time to welcome my special guest. This is probably the first person in comedy that I think that when I met them, I was actually kind of starstruck for a very odd reason. It's not the Father Ted reason, which a lot of people would assume, but I saw this gentleman on Channel 4. I think it was Saturday Live doing stand-up. And then when he turned up with Father Ted, I went, it's that guy. So it's a story I'm never going to share. And I'd probably never share again. And right now he's probably mortified. But let's get on our very special guest, the wonderful Michael Redmond. Michael, how are you, mate?
Hi, Billy. How you doing?
I'm good. I can't believe I don't even know why I told people that. In all fairness, I'm
not really mortified. I'm flattered that you remembered Saturday Night because that was 1989, I think. So I didn't even think you were born then.
I was a grand total of 9. The beauty of having 2 older brothers is I have to watch whatever they have. Michael, I'm 40 now, mate. I just turned 40.
Are you really?
I have turned 40 years old.
Seriously, I'm not bullshitting, but I thought you were about 30. Seriously,
mate, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That has literally made my day. It's not the years, it's the mileage, as Indiana Jones would say.
I'm 45 myself, so I feel a bit old.
Well, you know, we were at school together. I don't know, you were in the year above me, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, just a couple. Yeah.
But Michael, before we get into the bolts and everything that's going on, obviously, how are you finding this lockdown? You said you were getting a little bit of cabin fever before we kicked things off.
But only a little bit. See, the strange thing is, Billy, that my kids are all grown up.
Right.
And I have my Sunday night gig at the Stand and then maybe another 1 or 2 during the week. But most of the time, I'm in my flat during the day. The only reason I used to leave was to go to the supermarket, which hasn't changed.
Oh, right, okay.
So it's not really that much different to me anymore, to be honest. I mean, slightly, obviously. I mean, my kids can't come and visit me, like, you know, well, they're not kids, they're adults, but I mean, apart from that, it's not really that much different, to be honest. So I'm surviving quite well. I've been training for this for 10 years.
So it's like you've got a legitimate excuse to tell the kids, no, it's all right. It's all right. Just you guys stay. Oh, I'd love you to come round. I'd love you to come round. But so Dad's busy. Dad's busy. Have you been get everyone? Do you know social media is a pain in the arse because you literally see so many people like, oh, they're getting in shape or they're learning a new language or they're learning to juggle. Have you managed to do anything of that type during lockdown?
There's no point in my age getting fit or trying to learn a new language. It's just pointless. I just stare out the window most of the time.
Exactly. That seems to be all I do. I was like, well, that neighbour's got someone else in, and I know for a fact that's not a member of their family. That's dodgy.
I occasionally said that joggers just calm down for fuck's sake, you know.
Yeah, well, there is that. Yeah, just being a grass. That's what I do. Right. Well, I tell you what. Let's get about it. First of all, if you are watching, we'd love to have some questions for Michael. You can hit us up. You can drop them in the comments below. It's nice and easy. Just anything question talk could be about his career, anything at all. Let's open this up. In fact, anything. Go for it. The weirder and more wildful, the better. We've already got. I should say we've kicked things off. We're already getting compliments on the moustache from.
Thank you, Bert.
Bert's already complimented us on the moustache. We will get to that in a minute. It's because it is we'll talk about it a bit now. Michael, when I first met you, it was quite a small and well kept moustache.
Yeah, actually, it kind of went to there. I think sort of there and there, but yeah, it's kind of I just let it grow.
I like it. It's got the whole sort of Martin Chuzzlewit sort of Charles Dickens thing going on now.
Yeah. I don't know why I decided to let it go. I just sort of couldn't be bothered shaving it really, so I just let it go.
Isn't that how all good facial hair starts? I just can't.
Probably, it is. Probably, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Unless about when I started, I used to have my little stupid soul patch, which I just grew because I thought was cool, and I was wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, you're fully grown moustache now.
Thank you very much. I'm trying. I'm hoping to develop a Michael Redmond tribute act. But
I have it twirled a bit for the beard more oil. I was wearing the beard more oil earlier, so it kind of gives it a little bit of a twirl.
I like it. It's you could easily pass for like a German Oompa master. If that's even a thing, I don't even think I've got that.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, I mean, it could be a future career for me.
Let's go for it. It's, loads of people, when we announced you were going to be the guest, were obviously excited because not only did they know you from some of the other things you've done, like Father Ted and some of the other acting and stuff you've done, but a lot of people knew you from Sunday nights at the Stand.
Which is great, yeah.
Which, before we kicked off, both our minds were blown and we felt like a couple old housewives just nattering away. You've been doing for 20 years. Yeah,
I mean, I said to you, I think I mentioned to you that there's a woman called Sarah Watson who used to work at the Stand. She now runs the Glasgow Comedy Festival.
Yeah.
It only seems like a few years ago she came down to the Stand because she was working in the bar when I started.
Yes.
And she said, you've been doing this for 10 years. And I thought it'd been about 5 years. And now it's 20 years, so it only seems like about 7 or 8 years. But it's, it was 2000 I started in it. Yeah.
Fuck.
I know.
2000.
I mean, I thought I might go for a couple of years, but it's just unbelievable.
Hey, it's just on sabbatical just now. That's
exactly. Yeah. It's the first time it's the longest break I've ever had, I have to say.
This is the longest break I've ever had, I think.
It's the longest break any comedian probably had, unless you're shit.
No, not you.
I mean, I don't mean you. I mean someone else who's shit.
There's plenty of shit ones out there. Right. Well, I tell you what. Let's. We've actually got another quick question. This is from John Jackson, that owns Braw Beard Oils, and of course the Braw Beard Moustache and Beard Championships. It's going to be said, will we see you at the Braw Beard and Moustache Championships next February? Because people are clearly very impressed by this. You could be a contender.
Okay, well, what do I need to do?
I just need to enter and turn up.
Just with my moustache. I don't have to do anything.
Just keep it going.
Okay, so it's a moustache competition.
Yeah, and a beard. Yeah, these loads of different categories.
Okay, just have a moustache. You don't have a beard. You can just have. You go to the moustache. Yeah. Okay, well then I'm up for that. Yeah, definitely.
The Moustache guys, they take it very seriously. As do the Beard guys. Don't get me wrong. As they should. It's the championships after all. But come on, it sounds like that you already got the wink as being a contender.
Well, I mean, I've got to next February, so I mean, I can sort of really it can go wild.
Oh my God! Just imagine that. It's going to be like like
February. Another 9 months.
By February, it's going to be like something at Eurovision.
Oh, I won't be able to get through doorways.
It's going to have actually formed other mustaches of its own.
Yes. Yeah, baby mustaches, yeah.
All right, well, listen, you've heard it here first.
Definitely, yeah.
Let's get Michael on stage in February. It's happening. We're going to get him in those championships. Right, let's get some stuff. We've got to kick things off. I have not seen many interviews with yourself about your career. I think I saw one quite recently, which was, I think it's something crazy like the 20th anniversary or Father Ted or something. You were back home in Dublin.
That was about 3 or 4 years ago, I think. Yeah.
Oh, really? Was it? I only saw it.
Yeah. I've done quite a few podcasts, but I haven't done any sort of tele interviews. I know my profile isn't that high for tele interviews, but I've done quite a few podcasts, and I think probably that was the most recent tele interview I did was the Father Ted thing. Yeah.
Yeah. How did it all kick off for you then? How did because obviously for anyone that's watching, Michael's just not a stand-up comedian, but he's also an actor, also writes as well.
I'm kind of an actor, yeah.
Listen, the number of people I know that have claimed it and have done no acting, you've definitely got the qualifications. But you do all these other things. So how did it come about? How did the journey to the stage? It's always so different.
Well, I'll tell you exactly. When I started off doing my stand-up in London in the late 80s, and I was doing a gig, I think it was probably around sometime in 1993, I think, in London in the Bloomsbury Theatre.
Right.
I was with Dylan Moran and Ardlo Hanlon, I think, and I think there was somebody else. I can't remember who it was. But I remember after the gig, these two guys, who happened to be Graham Linehan and Arthur Matthews, came up to me and said they've been commissioned to write a sitcom for Channel 4 about these 3 priests on an island off the west coast of Ireland. And I thought, and they said, there might be a part for you. And I didn't know whether he meant a main part or just a part, but I mean, I didn't think anything of it because I've had a couple of, things like that before. And I just thought, something may never come of it, so I just forgot about it completely. But I think it was about 3 months later, I got this call to go in to meet them along with the producer, Jeffrey Perkins. And it was kind of an audition, but I think Arthur Matthews, he had an uncle who was very similar to Father Stone.
Right.
And it was based on that character. I think when he saw me at the Bloomsbury, and maybe he'd also seen me on Friday Night Live or whatever, he kind of thought I'd be perfect for that part. So it was kind of an interview, kind of an audition, but it wasn't really it. I think Jeffrey Perkins wanted me to kind of just say a few things just to convince him.
Right.
And apparently what sealed it for him was when I said that line of when Father Ted said to me, so are you going to leave? And I said, well, yeah, if there's a fire. I think that's what sealed it for Jeffrey Perkins, apparently. So that's basically how I got the part. I don't know whether they specifically wrote it for me, but I think maybe they kind of slightly had me in the back of their mind when they were writing that part. Yeah.
You were almost kind of auditioning to play yourself already.
Yeah, which I think they did for a lot of people. I mean, I think it was the same with Joe Rooney, who was Father Damo, and
that is what Joe was like.
Yeah, and Patrick McDermott, you may know him as well, who played Owen McLove, the kind of the country and western guy.
Oh yeah, shit, of course.
Yeah, he does stand up as well. You wouldn't know him over here, but he does stand up in Ireland as well.
So, what was the? I mean, obviously that came after you'd been doing stand up for a few years, like you said. You were on.
Yeah. That was that was about 6 years later. Yeah.
How did stand up kick off for you then? Because that was at a time when the alternative scene was just kind of sort of rebuilding almost from what comedy had been. It was a kind of underground thing. How did your journey to stand up happen?
I just got in at the right time. I mean, I'd done bits and pieces in Ireland, but not very much. There's no comedy scene in Ireland at all, really.
Yeah.
And this would have been about 1985, 86.
Right.
And there's another Irish comedian called Kevin McAleer. You may not be familiar with him, but if you ever get a chance, Google him. He was on Friday Night Live as well, and he does the slide show.
Did you see Kevin McAleer?
Yeah, Kevin McAleer.
I know Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah, a genius. But I mean, I kind of did a couple of things in Dublin, and he was in the same bill. But I'd heard later that he'd gone to London.
Right.
And I think he came back to Dublin for a few days to meet family, and I met him by chance, and he told me there's quite a thriving circuit in London. So because there was nothing in Dublin then, I mean, there was a comedy club for about 6 weeks, I think. Then it kind of folded, and so I thought so I decided just to give it a go, because I mean, I'd nothing to lose. I'd kind of, I think I was unemployed. I'd done lots of jobs over the years, like sort of insurance and accountancy, kind of middle class. That's the sort of background I came from. But I knew it wasn't for me, so I just thought I'd give it a go. So I just went, and this was early 1987. But I was really lucky, because I mean, in those days you could, I hate using the words those days. Sounds like a really old man. But you could ring up.
We've been going 20 years now, Michael. We've been going 20 years.
But you could just ring up a club in London. There was a magazine called Time Out. It's probably still going, I think, where there was a comedy listings of all the comedy clubs with numbers. So you could just ring up and ask for an open spot, or an open mic, as it's called now. But I mean, these days, you might have to wait for 6 months, a year for even an open mic. But then you kind of almost within a week they would give you an open mic spot.
Oh,
and if you did well, then you get a booking within 2 or 3 weeks.
That's crazy.
Because there was only about, I mean, I was just really lucky. I just went there at the right time, because there was only about maybe 30, 40 comedians at the most going around then. So if you were any good, it was quite easy. Well, it wasn't easy, but, the competition wasn't anything like as intense as it is now. I remember hearing there's a comedian called Johnny Pelham, a Newcastle comedian. I don't know whether you know him. Yeah.
I
remember he telling me that this was a few years ago, that he did an open spot for the Comedy Store, and they said, we really like it, but could you come back again in 6 months just so we can make sure? I don't know. I mean, if I'd been in that situation, I just would have given up. I don't think I could have.
I do love that, the idea that, we think you're great, we're going to get you a gig, but can you come back half a year later just to make sure?
Just to make sure, exactly,
Yeah, we're not mad. That's crazy. That's crazy. Right, we've got a couple of questions. We'll jump a wee bit to keep it sort of moving. Here's an interesting one for you. Aside from Billy, of course, thanks. Who is the most interesting person you've met throughout your career?
Interesting. Well, that's a strange one. Yeah. I mean, do they mean funniest or just interesting?
I guess it could be a little of both. I guess who is an icon for you then? Somebody that you enjoy.
I think when I went to London first, there's a Scottish comedian called Jerry Sadowitz. You may or may not know.
Of course,
you probably would.
Yeah,
a lot of people probably do, but I mean, he was, when I went to London first, he was my hero. Just because I used to go to the Comedy Store before I actually started performing there. And Jerry was kind of the main man. Well, for me, he was the main man anyway, who performed at the Comedy Store, and I just thought it was just genius. And then I can't even try to do his act, because it was just so unique. But well, in a way it was an act, but in a way it wasn't, because he's genuinely sort of beautifully unhinged naturally. It's not a kind of a it's not an act. So I think I have to put him as the most interesting and funniest person I've met through my career, even though that's still come back to probably 1989. But since then, I don't think I've met anybody who could match him, really.
I think that's a great shout. If nobody knows who Jerry Sadowitz is, one thing you've got to know is he is probably one of the foremost magicians.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that, I mean, that's another thing I was going to mention, that normally if I see a magician on stage, doesn't really do that much for me, to be honest, Kind of get a bit bored. But I remember in the Comedy Store, in the dressing room, and he's doing this close-up magic with some cards, and normally, as I say, that would kind of bore me a bit, but my mouth was open. I just couldn't believe. How is he doing that? It was just unbelievable.
But he's also one of the most ruthless, aggressive,
genius
comedians.
But the beauty of it is, it's not an act, though. It's not kind of like sort of, I told my act to be aggressive, so that would kind of get me known. It was just, he's genuinely, I should say, he's a genuine and angry man, but socially he's a lovely guy. Because I remember a really nice story. I mean, I hadn't been in London long, and I'd done a couple of gigs at the Comedy Store when he was on the same bill, and he really liked my act. But he realised I'd just come over from Ireland and I was kind of on my own. He said, if you ever want to go for the pictures or go for a drink sometime, just give me a shout. And he's socially he's a really lovely guy, quite a genuine, soft guy. But at the same time, underneath there was sort of an anger underneath, which was totally genuine. It wasn't an act, as I say.
Well,
but an incredibly funny man.
We all know that you in real life are a raging bag.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I mean, this is just an act that Michael's put up.
Totally, totally, yeah. My family will tell you, kicking chairs through the window anytime.
I tell you what, we've got a couple of. Well, you've kind of answered Andy's question as well, which was the same thing. Who's one of the funniest person you've met? Do you think that's a different answer to that than Jerry?
Well, I mean, Jerry's probably the funniest act. Funniest person, maybe my brother Liam.
I always think it's a weird question to ask a comedian who's the funniest person, because it can change from day to day and from act to act. But probably the funniest person I know is probably my 7-year-old son, if I'm honest.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's more of a personal thing, isn't it? Yeah, I would say probably my brother Liam, who's 2 years younger than me, is probably the funniest person I've met, because he's a very successful businessman, but underneath he's a bit like Jerry. He's not aggressive, but he's a lunatic, disturbing in some ways.
He's still waiting for that open spot as well. The list is getting longer and longer. This is probably a question that every comedian gets asked at some point. What was your toughest stand-up gig?
There's been a few over the years, I think. I mean, the toughest. Well, I mean, there was a gig called The Tunnel in South London.
Right. Yeah, it's an
infamous
gig.
Yeah.
It's an infamous gig. Yeah.
Yeah, it was run by a guy called Malcolm Hardy, and I mean, this is probably not what you're expecting, because it was regarded as, if they don't like you, they were just ruthless. I mean, there was no mercy. But for some reason, when Malcolm was the resident compere, and if he liked you, he kind of would give you a nice intro, and if he didn't like you, he'd just sort of say, "Here's the next act, could be shit," and then he'd just walk off. But I remember when I walked into I hadn't been in London for only a few weeks, and I walked into the pub where the tunnel was, and there was these kind of 4 or 5 guys with black suits and white shirts playing snooker, and there was kind of a snooker hall off it. And it was like sort of London East End kind of gangster sort of feel about it.
All right, okay.
And I mean, I was terrified, and I was kind of sort of middle class boy from Dublin, just arriving in this weird place, and there was kind of those gasworks beside it as well, which you could smell, and it was just, I just remember thinking, sort of, what am I doing here? And but one of the guys was Malcolm.
Oh, right, of course.
But to me, they looked like sort of 4 hoods.
I only crossed paths with Malcolm once, and I could totally see why someone could think. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was quite dishevelled when I saw him, but I could only quite 5 sheets to the wind, or is that the expression?
Yeah, but a lovely man. But I sort of said, because there was only the 4 of them. There was kind of an ante-room before you went to the pub, and I said, "I'm looking for Malcolm," and this guy stepped forward. He says, "I'm Malcolm," and he's just a lovely, successful guy. And he obviously took to me for some reason. Even before he saw my act, he just liked, maybe because I looked so innocent and terrified, I don't know. But for some reason, he gave me a brilliant introduction, and I stormed the gig. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was waiting for it to be booed off at any moment. But for some reason, they just liked me. I don't know why. But it was. I can't say that was my toughest. The only other gigs I can remember where the toughest was where there was silence rather than being heckled. I can't remember any particular gig, but I mean, there's been a few over the years where the audience just aren't interested, and there's just silence, which is worse than being heckled. Because you're heckled, you can respond.
What do you think is your best heckle put down? Actually, it's not a bad question. I've seen you deal with it in so many different ways. My personal favorite is, and then you just carry on. I don't know anybody else in the business that can do it. Yeah. I mean, I think that is. But there's two kind of dynamics. So if the audience like you can do what you want. If somebody heckles you, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So usually, probably the times you see me where somebody heckles me,
and the audience already like me because it's my Sunday night giggers, and I just go, very amusing, yes. Anyway, moving on. So, but you can do that if the audience already like you.
It's going well, yeah.
Yeah, but if you're dying in your arse, you can't do that because the audience probably don't like you anyway. So
I'll take heckles and abuse over silence any day.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I can't remember any sort of particular heckle put on. It's usually something that's on the spur of the moment. Occasionally, I do if I feel somebody's being annoying. I say, they say some sort of uncomplimentary, shall I say? I say something like that. That's my ex-boyfriend. He's very bitter. Comes to all my gigs.
It's the stock lines. Yeah,
but I prefer if it's something that's kind of to do with what they're saying. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I can't remember a particular one. I just back to the tunnel gig that
right.
It doesn't relate to me in particular, but I mean it was notorious for hecklers. It was kind of as I said, but it was clever heckling. It wasn't kind of like F off you wanker kind of. It was clever stuff. And there was some comedian, I can't remember who it was, but he'd been on stage for about 5 minutes to total silence, nothing. And then some guy just shouted out, "What do you want?"
Shouted what?
What do you want?
What do you want? Ah!
No comeback.
The worst heckle I ever heard. And he's a good friend of mine, so I don't think he'll mind me telling this story. Is Paul Curry?
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Paul is. I think he's fantastic. He's kind of like a sort of cross between Steve Martin in his heyday. He's just there's so much going on. And,
genius! Yeah.
And he was opening a gig that we were doing, and I'd had a particularly nice opener, and they were all set up. But this was the night that Paul decided he was going to try something he had never done, and lost them in the first couple of minutes, and just never got them back. And I always remember him saying the phrase, going, "I'm going to get you back. Don't worry, I'm going to get you back." And as he reached in to get a prop, this woman leant forward and went, "Is this your first time?" And I always thought, that's the worst heckle I had ever heard. In my
vicious, yeah.
I wanted it to be like Platoon. I wanted to go, no, I wanted to take the bullet for him. No! It's slow. But I practically saw the moment where he was like, it stung.
It's kind of, that was one of the, because it's almost like she's kind of slightly feeling sorry for you and just thinks you're so pathetic, kind of.
Yeah.
Which is worse than kind of.
Yeah. But Paul, to his credit. Yeah, exactly. That would have been worse. The Paul, to his credit, after that gig went round and apologised to each and every member of the audience. I have never seen it in my life. 200 people got I'm really sorry the way that went. That's fine. It's fine.
I think he's a genius. I mean, he's one of the few comedians I would sort of make a point of going to see.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's lots of comedians I admire, like yourself, I'm sure, but when you've been doing it for a while, there's very few comedians that you would actually make a point of going along to see if you weren't on the same bill, because he's just so different. Yeah, I think he's genius. I love him.
You pay the money to go and see them. Paul is my date comedian with my wife.
Yeah, exactly.
We will go and see him, and it's my hot pick. Anyway, he's not on the show, so screw him right now. But let's talk a little bit, and we'll bounce back. Let's talk a little bit about that. The beast on your face, shall we say? I could have phrased that different. This mustache. Couple of people asking, actually, Lindsay Houston, who's been on the show before, have you ever thought about growing a full beard?
Well, I did try it once, Lindsay, but you may not realise it may look like, kind of, because of my moustache, that I have quite a full face, but I've actually quite a small, thin face, really. Well, not as thin as it used to be, but it's kind of narrow. So when I grow a beard, it just basically, all you can see is my nose. So I sort of tried once on holidays, but then I realised, no, it just doesn't work.
But the mustache has been a permanent fixture.
Oh, it's been a mainstay since I was in my late 20s, I think. Yeah.
I was just thinking, I would not know what to do if you walked into a room without the mustache.
I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah, can I help you? And you still have what I think is the finest mustache eyebrow combination of joke on the circuit.
I need to take my glasses off to show the I presume you mean the jack when somebody says someone mentions my eyebrows and I say they're not actually eyebrows, they're spare moustaches.
I love it. It's just the best joke. it's the best joke that only you can deliver. I absolutely love it. That's the reason why you still got the mustache. It's a belter of a joke that nobody wants to.
Just for one joke, basically. Yeah.
Hey, it's why I've got still paint on these tattoos every day. I've got jokes about them.
That's a bit more of an effort, yeah.
Well, it's I'm sure I could write it off a tax. Who knows? But that's the thing. Like when people see your act when you perform, obviously when you're comparing at the stand or where you're gigging at the Glee or wherever, or if you're doing the shows at the Fringe, it's really quite different, your act. I mean, from what people might come to expect. I don't even think they know what to expect, because you can't be quite surreal and playful and whimsical in your own way. And I mean that with all the greatest, but then don't get me wrong, totally, you love a dirty joke as much as the next person, which I appreciate. But what was sort of was that something you set out to do, or was that really something you found your voice with as you went on?
Well, it was initially that I mean, you mentioned Friday Night Live. When I started doing it, I mean, I used to be terrified of audiences. I mean, I'm not a kind of a natural performer. I was sort of quite, well, I wouldn't say introverted, but I'm not a natural extrovert, put it that way.
Yeah.
And I used to be terrified of audiences, so I used to wear this knack and just walk on stage with this kind of deadpan expression, which is, I suppose, is quite natural. I still am quite deadpan because of my natural way, I suppose. But I mean, I was very deadpan in those days, where I didn't even look at the audience. I was so scared. I would just stare straight ahead.
Yeah.
And do one-liner after one-liner and pause if they were laughing, you know. But then when I came to Glasgow, I never thought of comparing, really. I mean, because I thought, that's not really for me. I'm just too deadpan for it. But because when I came to Glasgow, there was really only the stand. That was it. I mean, there was the State Bar, I think, and then there was the stand.
Yeah, and Blackfriars would have been in there maybe as well, but
Blackfriars maybe before my time, in fact.
Yeah, I think so.
Might be still going a little bit, but because I mean, obviously, I couldn't perform at the stand every 2 weeks. It wasn't like the old days where I used to perform at the Comedy Store or Jongleurs, because there wasn't that many comedians. Now there was loads of comedians, so I wasn't going to be able to perform a set at the stand every 2 or 3 weeks. So the only way I could have a kind of a wage, if you like, a weekly wage, was by comparing somewhere. So I asked Tommy, who was still involved at the stand then, Sunday night was kind of a free night. I hadn't really established anything then. So I said, could I compare the Sunday night? And he said, yeah, give it a go for a few weeks and see how it goes. And fortunately, it just went well. And I kind of it was just over the years, I've just developed a style of chatting with audience. So I kind of learned it in a way from the Scottish comedian Phil Kay.
Right.
Who I sort of supported him on a mini tour once in Scotland for about 12 gigs. And I kind of knew him vaguely, but I didn't really know him that well. But what inspired me was watching him, sort of, because I thought if you go on and sort of, you know, put your hands up in the air and say, hey, how you doing, all that, the audience say, well, you need to make us laugh before I'm going to give you anything back. But he used to just go on, and the audience went with him, because they just kind of realized he was a likable guy, I suppose. But I realized from that you can, if you kind of, the audience will go with you if you give them a chance, which I hadn't really realized before that.
Yeah.
But I kind of learned that from Phil, that you can kind of, you know, if you engage with the audience, by and large, they will go with you. Obviously, not all the time, but 99% of the time they will. So I kind of learned that from him, and that was kind of partly how I developed my comparing style to it, even though it may seem a million miles from Phil Kay because he's kind of manic. But it kind of, that's kind of how I kind of learned that kind of style of, you know.
I think the first gig I ever did with your good self would have been at the stand on the Sunday nights, because for anyone that doesn't know, if you do well at Red Raws, which is the new ag night, you win the rest of the Sunday.
You got it up to the Sunday night, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember on that first show you had a women's joke on, a women's jacket on, sorry, and I think the man with the tiniest feet in the world's cowboy boots by the end of like the first section of the show, and proceeded to perform most of the rest of the show in that outfit for the rest of the night, and it's I just remember loving it and going, all right, so it was an education for me. It's like, all right, so it's not just suits and jackets and standing here. You can be a little more yourself.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I got away a little bit more because I'm older. I don't know, but I mean, I think if the audience trusts you, they know I'm not going to, go in and sort of go for them and offend them and kind of humiliate them. Maybe kind of a bit of a mild amusement, but I'm not going to totally humiliate them. It's kind of a joking with them rather than at them, if you know what I mean.
Michael, this is all my act. You're just ruining. So it's all I do. It's all I do.
You do very well, Billy. That's the point.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. They don't know it's that part of it. Well, he was very charming, but he was very insulting. That tends to be the best reviews I get. Right, we are going to talk about this mustache. Well, having it for such a long time, and it is an absolute belter just now. We know you got some hands on some oil, and you've got it in there right now. Do you know what one it was you've got in tonight, by any chance?
I know it has got argan oil in it. I know that one of those was. They gave me two. One of them has argan oil in it. I know that. I know
if John's watching, because I know it was just a case of banging. You got your hands on them. I don't know I feel terrible because without seeing I should have planned this. Without seeing the bottles, how do you find that though? Is that it's getting for people that are messaging and going, that is a banging mustache.
I really like it. I kind of. I mean, it sounds like an ad, but it does bring it out. And if you kind of got a little bit of a growth, which I have at the moment. Normally, that kind of makes me look like kind of a bit like a Jakey. But if you put that beard oil on, it kind of it gives a bit of a glitter. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it kind of. I don't know. It kind of frames everything.
Exactly.
It conditions everything. It frames everything.
It doesn't look like you're just unshaven. It looks like kind of it's meant to be like that.
Oh God, like the state. I mean, this is long now, and like well, the worst thing is when you think you've had a nice day, and then you realise there's a hair. Because I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning just now, so I'm not like I should oil my beard, but then I'll be halfway through the day and I realise like half of it's I can't even do it now because I put the oil in, but half of it's like hanging up here, and it's like, oh God, why wouldn't somebody tell me?
People don't tell you things like that.
Do you get recognised a lot? Do you think?
I mean, not to the point of view where it's unbearable, or I mean, I can't imagine what it must be like if you're really famous.
Yeah,
but occasionally, I mean, I very rarely get stopped in the street.
Right.
But occasionally at gigs, kind of people will say, kind of have a selfie or that kind of thing, which I don't mind. I think it's fine. I mean, it's better than being ignored, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't mind. I mean, it's sort of like there's that old Oscar Wilde quote of there's nothing worse than. There's only one thing worse than being recognised, and that's not being recognised.
That's it. That's it. Honestly, it was at the Tony. I can never remember the guy. The 24 party people. That's not like the right fucking one. Never mind. It'll come to me. I was trying to remember. He was in the Steve Coogan movie. They did the Steve Coogan movie all about him. God, I can never remember his bloody name. It was very good. That's all we need to know.
As long as it was good, that's all that matters.
Hey, look, I don't get asked to do movie reviews. I saw a movie. It was very good. That's all we need to know. Superman in it, I believe. Do you have to put a lot of time into grooming that bad boy? Because I've never seen you with an unkept moustache, I have to say, Mike.
No, I do have to kind of trim it every couple of days, yeah. Because I mean, it's not just for the appearance of the other thing is that. You probably know you kind of get a little bit to grow underneath.
Yeah.
You can feel it sort of in your mouth. You can kind of feel the bits of hair in your mouth. So so kind of like more sort of. I do have to trim the main bit, but the main bit is kind of the bits underneath that kind of grow into your mouth after really trim. Yeah.
I'm still at that stage where I like to have a drink and pretend I'm a cowboy for just a little bit, just so I can have it all in here. Then it's like, oh shit.
The worst thing is the only sort of I don't know what's the word. well, not bad thing, but about having a moustache is trying to drink soup or eat soup.
Well, you can. So a couple of the guys were telling me, like Sir Davey Wallace and a couple of other guys, some of the guys that are competitors and ambassadors for Braw Beard oils were telling me that apparently you can get a moustache guard for cups. Like you can literally get a guard, so it's just a little spout there. It's you sit it on top of your cup and you go like that.
It just goes into your mouth then. I
had no idea until this happened.
That's all fine. I mean, as long as you're at home, but I mean, if you're in a restaurant and somebody sees you taking out your guard,
that might ruin it a little bit.
Yeah.
Loads of people.
The thing about it is that it's all right if you're at home because you can just go and wash it off. But I mean, if you're in a restaurant and you're having tomato soup and you can feel it kind of congealing bits of your moustache, even if you wipe it with a tissue, still not quite the same.
Yeah. In fact,
that's the only downside I can think of about having a big moustache is having soup outdoors or in public.
Soup and beer, but it's good for catching Guinness. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah.
It's good for catching a Guinness or well, not so much a red wine, but right. Just very quickly, it's the last chance to get some questions in from Michael. If you've got anything about his career or anything at all, you can hit us up in the comments and we'll hit them up. Thank you for all the ones. So you very much like the oils.
I do, yes. They're superb, yeah. I mean, spot on. It does sound like an ad, but I highly recommend them. They're great.
Yeah. Is that something you did a lot of? Did you use oil before?
Well, I've used. It wasn't this product. I mean, I've bought stuff in Boots and things like that. I've never really I've never really done the real twirly thing because I think it's if I twirl it too much, it kind of takes away from the deadpan kind of thing.
Oh, I never thought. Yeah, you'd look too happy.
I look a bit like that German. What did you call him? A German something?
The German Oompa.
Yeah, German Oompa. Yeah. But
well, I'm always a bit worried because the thing is I've got a small round head. That's why I grow my hair up and I put it in a ponytail, but I've got a wee round head. So I'm a little worried that when I shave it off, I look like the guy off the side of a Pringles tin. You know, like everyone else, like I go to the championships and I see all the other ambassadors and what have you brought, and they look amazing. They put wax in and they look at it. But me, I always feel like even when my beard was all the way down here, I always feel like I just look like a dick. And no matter how hard I try and bless it, then I get my hands into Braw Beard stuff and I go, I actually feel quite good. I feel like I've made the effort.
Well, I'll tell you what I like about it, because there is that, this kind of, somebody told me you can, put wax in, but it's kind of sticky, I don't like that at all. But the stuff those guys gave me, it's more oil rather than wax. Yeah.
These I know you can get. I know Braw Beard do a butter and a sort of wax if you like. That's really nice. That's really nice. But I know I've done once before and I've put it in and I went. Well, I just feel like I've stuck my mustache, glued my mustache.
Yeah, it's like the Inspector Poirot thing. I mean, you must spend hours with wax kind of twirling around. Oh, yeah. That would just wouldn't feel right to me at all. Not the look of it, but just the actual physical feel of it.
I know the stuff that, and I'm not just saying it because the people watching from it, but I know for a fact that a lot of the wax and the butters that they produce are meant to be really nice, kind of like the oil. They kind of complement as opposed to stick it right in place. We've got a couple of last questions before we get out here. A couple of Father Ted questions. Let's get them out of the way. This one's by Louise Westy. She said, if they did a remake to Father Ted with a new cast, would you return as Father Stone, or would you like to be another character?
I'm quite happy to do Father Stone again. Yeah, I mean, I say he was only in one episode, but I mean, I don't think it's going to happen again. I think it's highly unlikely. But
it's weird. It's weird, isn't it? It's kind of got the Faulty Towers thing going. There was I think it was 3 series, only 3 series of Father Ted. Maybe a Christmas special in there as well. But I mean, I can certainly say, growing up, you could quote it verbatim. Even now, Father Ted references. I was making a joke about having lots of hairy babies in our house, just the other day, and there's only so many times you can mention a lovely girl competition, and stuff like that. But I love Pet Brick. All right, people are talking about the Pet Brick. Sorry, I was just thinking for a second. But is there any? I know you said you hadn't done a lot of acting, but I know you've done writing, and I know you've performed at the Fringe. Are those places where we're going to see you again? Are you going to be back out on the road doing maybe some Fringe shows?
Well, I haven't any Fringe show planned at the moment because obviously I'm certainly not nothing planned for this year anyway because there isn't any Fringe. But yeah, I'd like to do another Fringe show, but it would have to be something that I kind of want to do rather than just do the Fringe for the sake of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, hopefully maybe next year or the year after something will.
No, that'd be great.
I'll do it, yeah. But as regards to Father Stone thing, I'd happily play Father Stone again, yeah. Because he was only in one episode, so maybe that was better off just leaving it as one episode, and maybe it would have been milky. I don't know. But
we can always do an Avengers style reboot where we bring everyone together.
Downbeat Father Stone. Downbeat Avengers. Yeah.
But you were telling me, and it's a weird thing because I can only do a comparison. I know that have you played Father Stone or a similar character like that since?
Not really, no. I mean, because I suppose people feel that it'd be too Father Stone if I did, if you know what I mean.
Got you. Yeah.
You know, kind of. They might feel, oh, well, you know, I'm not accepting that because that's basically Father Stone. So I've done a couple of other bits and pieces, but I've done stuff for Scott Squad. I've done a sketch for Scott Squad, but it wasn't really Father Stone.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But it was quite deadpan, but it wasn't Father Stone. I suppose, yeah. I don't think any other show would feel that they could put me in as a Father Stone type character because it would be too like Father Stone, if you know what I mean.
I guess the weirdest thing I ever had is I was in a kids' TV show called School of Silence where I played a mad German professor, and then that character got booked to make an appearance on a kids' game show, but that it was the character they were booking, not me. But because I am him, they have to phone me up and go, "Can we get you to be the professor?" And it's just the weirdest.
Yeah, I know.
It was the weirdest scenario I'd ever been in, and hopefully I'm never again. Michael, this has been absolutely amazing. I know that you're doing loads of stuff on social media just now, certainly on your Twitter, where you're doing a joke of the week. By the way, that the number of people that have told me about the one about you shagging the newsreader, the women in the news, like proper. I remember not being ready for it at all because I went, where's this going? Well, I've shagged her. If anyone had the chance to see it, please do go and check out Michael Redmond on Twitter. I'm just trying to remember what your handle is.
It's Redmond Michael 1.
Redmond Michael 1. Let's see. Oh, we've got one last question for me out here. If you could do it all over again, your entire career, what would be your favourite part?
I only really had one part, which is Father Stone.
Just Father Stone.
That's the only thing I've done. That's the only kind of proper acting job I've done. So the only other part I can think of is my stand-up act.
Yes.
You know, which is in a way is a part. You know what I mean? You're kind of yourself, but you're not 100% yourself. If you were, that would mean you'd be a lunatic in real life. You know?
Yeah, that would be that would be.
Yeah, it'd be scary for everybody around you. So I suppose in a way, my stand-up act is my favourite part. Yes.
So it's my favourite part as well, apart from doing Braw Cast. Look, thank you very much. I tell you what, Michael, I'm going to pop you in the green room, and I'll talk to you in just 1 second. I'll just
thank you very much. I enjoyed that. It was good fun. Thank you.
Cheers. Talk to you 1 sec. Thank you everyone for tuning in. It was so much fun talking to Michael. There is still a chance for you to nominate a Brother of the Week. If you would like to do that, you can put it in the comments right here. You can DM the Braw Beard page, or you can even send me a DM if it's easier. We're going to start kicking that off next week. Don't forget, we're going to be Mondays 9 o'clock. We did talk about maybe moving it to 8 o'clock. Let us know if that's too early. We're going to have another brilliant guest next week. Don't forget, though, this stream is going to be live. You're going to be able to rewatch it again and again and again. Let us know that you're watching it. And do me a favor, tag a friend that you think will be interested in it. Tag a friend that you think might want to get some Braw Beard products. We would love to hear from you. And let us know you'd fancy getting on as a guest. It's always going to be a mix of ambassadors and people that we're working with. We're looking forward to maybe seeing Michael at the championships in February. Wouldn't that be awesome? And all that's left to say is during this time, take care of yourself. And last thing, it is Mental Health Awareness Week. We're all about positivity. We're all about good vibes. Make sure to look after yourself. Make sure to reach out to someone if you can. And I tell you what, if someone reaches out to you, make sure to check on them as well. Look after yourselves, stay safe, and we'll see you next week. This is the really awkward bit when I've got to sign off and I've got to wave. Make sure to share this link and tag a friend. We'll see you next Monday. Cheers!